Welcome to Interest TV. Today we are having Purmo Group's Q2 result. I had the results, and today we have John Peter Leesi, the CEO of Purmo Group, here with us. Welcome, John Peter Leesi.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Great to be here.
First, we could talk about the Q2 result, and you could kind of summarize in your own words. How did it go for you?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, we think it was a solid performance in terms of sales and earnings in the second quarter. And I think it was also an example of the resilience of Purmo's business throughout the ups and downs of economic cycles. So we were resilient when it came to margin performance. And then thirdly is that we could also see that the strategic areas of our business, which is the systems and solutions growth, was performing really well in the second quarter. So those were kind of the highlights: solid performance, resilient business, and systems growing strongly. And that then translated to a net sales growth in the quarter of 16% and an earnings growth of 4% for Purmo Group as a whole.
Yeah, the revenue growth was very nice. And if we compare to last year, the 2021 H1 was very, very kind of good demand coming back from the corona. How were you able to kind of grow during this kind of hard comparison period?
Yeah, I think that exactly as you said, Olli, the recovery in the first half of 2021 was kind of almost exaggerated. Everything was going red hot, especially on the radiator side. What we now have seen in the first half of 2022 is, of course, a normalization and even a market correction. So we've seen volumes down. So if you take our radiator business grew with 6% on net sales, even in this environment. But this is now the numbers that are important. Volumes in radiators were actually down 19%, but thanks to price increases and some mix effects of 27%, we could actually then show and post a 6% growth in the business. And that's why it's so important to be able to increase prices when you have to increase prices. And the company has done that well.
Yeah. How about ICS division? You have kind of good growth in the Southern Europe.
Correct. So overall, the ICS business has been performing well. And as you say, here we're talking about 28% growth in both sales and in earnings. And over a few years now, you're going to see a constant growth in earnings and net sales in that business. And this is driven by basically two things. One is then that this business puts together systems and solutions that provide true energy efficiency for end clients. And the second thing is that business is also focused on markets where there's been very strong development, partly supported by government incentives. And Italy and Southern Europe is one of these areas. So there is a very positive thing going on with it's the right products, right systems, addressing the right part of the market, but also geographically in markets where there is a lot of support for it.
Yeah. And if you look at the profitability, it was up 4% in kind of absolute terms. But if you look at the margins, they were down from the comparison period. Can you talk about what kind of affected your margins and profitability in the quarter?
Yeah, the one factual and mathematical thing that just need to be kept in mind is that when costs increase and we're able to pass on that cost, mathematically the percentage goes down, right? So even if we're very good at passing on cost increases with a higher net sales number or retained earnings number, the percentage comes down, right? But we don't want to use that as an excuse. And that's where we're still, focused on expanding our margin in terms of percentages, right? But what you see here are two effects when you see that our margin is dropping down to 11.4% in the second quarter. One is this big volume drop I mentioned. It actually then creates some operational inefficiency, right? That actually adds cost to us and has a negative effect. And the second point then is that you get this mathematical effect of passing on cost. You need to pass on more than the cost. And that is something that we actually have to do going forward in an even better way.
Yeah. How about the kind of market uncertainties, kind of we see cost inflation in materials, and maybe material availability is not that great at the moment for you. Has that affected your profitability at all in the quarter?
Yes, in two ways. In the radiator business, the cost inflation in many areas have increased cost that in turn has exacerbated the downward adjustment of the demand in radiator business, okay? So it's like a double thing there, right? In the ICS business, we've seen cost increases, but continuous strong demand, and that's where our supply has been hampered. We have not been able to deliver as much as we could sell because of constraints. So two different challenges. In radiators, we've seen it come down. In ICS, we haven't been able to supply.
All right. And if we look at your acquisitions, you made this Thermotech acquisition during the first half, and could you tell about how has the integration process been for you? We have seen in Q2 it had quite a nice profitability level, even better than the whole group had in Q2. And after that, you could briefly comment on the other kind of merger and acquisition activity you see on the market.
The Thermotech acquisition is a perfect example of what we try to do here, right? We already have a sizable business internally, which is in under our brand Emmeti, and earlier today we showed an example of the type of business they do: complete systems, complete solutions that actually bring energy efficiency to the market. So that is like our North Star. That's the core of what we want to pursue globally in our business, right? In order to be able to do that in more places, we then acquired and merged with Thermotech, which is a Nordic company that does things that are very similar to what Emmeti does in Italy, but they do more of prefab of underfloor systems, mainly in Sweden, very close to customers, working very close to installers, prefabricating a configured system and supplying it direct to site. That is a very winning formula, which together with the Emmeti formula we have, becomes the core of our systems business that we are then going to grow in the whole world, but starting in Europe. I mean, that's our thinking. So what we're trying to do, so we're very happy with Thermotech. Thermotech is a beautiful business. It brings us even more capability and competence in this space. And what we now want to do is that in the world of M&A, we want to look for more of these companies to bring them into our family and work with them, for them to teach us, but also for us to help them grow and become even better. When it comes to your question, are there a lot of those opportunities? Yes, there are a lot of those opportunities out there. It's a fragmented market. There are smaller, medium-sized companies in this space, and it's important for us to have the bandwidth to address all these opportunities. And I think that's probably our biggest shortcoming right now, to be able to approach all of these opportunities.
Yeah. Lastly, we could talk about the kind of market development and maybe your outlook for the rest of the year. We have seen the kind of market volumes dropping and your volumes dropping, especially in radiator division. How do you see the kind of market demand at the moment for you in either division, and how do you see the outlook for the rest of the year?
It's always painful when things go down, right? In the same way, when things went up a lot in 2021, we knew. I mean, you knew, I knew, we knew that the whole situation was a bit exacerbated, and it's going to normalize. Now we're going through a period of normalization, but it doesn't matter. Even if we knew it, it's painful. What we thought with regards to 2022 was that we thought that this normalization was going to be pretty much done in Q1 and part of Q2, and then we were going to see a very end of Q2, Q3, and Q4, coming back to some more solid growth year over year. So that was our idea. What we've seen now, and what Eric said in our call earlier today, is that we've seen that market correction being a little bit pushed forward. So we are actually a little bit, cautious about Q3, but we still believe that we will see more of an improvement in Q4. So when we look at the year as a whole, we thought Q1, a little bit challenging. Second half, so not Q1, half one, first half challenging, half two better. Now we see half one was maybe a little bit better than we thought, and we think that maybe Q3 is going to be a little bit more of a challenge, and then an improvement in Q4 again.
All right, that sounds.
I hope that makes sense. But
yeah, that makes a lot of sense for me. Yeah. And that's all for me. And thank you very much, John Peter, for the interview. And I wish you a nice rest of the summer.
Thank you very much. You too.